movie opens with John Bridger, recently released from prison, calling his daughter Stella Wall from Venice, Italy. He mentions that he wants to send her a gift, but she's cautious and asks if he has a receipt due to his history of theft. Their conversation is interrupted, and John joins Charlie and 4 other team members, Left Ear, Handsome Rob, and Steve Roselli. Their target is a safe containing $35 million in gold bars beneath a waterfront house. The team places a bomb under the safe, causing it to fall into the water, and successfully cracks it underwater. Following an exciting speedboat chase involving the police and security personnel, they escape. Meanwhile, Charlie and John manage to steal the gold from the safe underwater by using the distraction created by Handsome Rob. After their successful heist, the team meets on a snow-covered mountain. John admires Charlie for flawlessly planning the operation. They discuss how they plan to spend their portion of the spoils and share a few laughs before parting ways. However, their journey is interrupted when they are betrayed by some of Steve's men while crossing a bridge. Steve demands that Handsome Rob release the steering wheel while pointing a gun at him. Steve's men begin to unload the gold from the bus. Steve turns his gun on John, who is trying to exit the vehicle. John reminds him that they'll find him, but Steve shoots him immediately. Left Ear quickly drives to escape, but the bus falls off the bridge into the cold, icy river. Steve continues to shoot to ensure they are dead. Fortunately, they manage to escape to the riverbank, where Charlie mourns over the death of his mentor. Meanwhile, Stella Richards has taken a lock-picking job for the police and has just completed the task, earning praise for her skill. Returning to her office, she encounters Charlie Croker, who informs her that he has located Steve and wants to retrieve the stolen gold. However, Stella declines Charlie's proposal, asserting she is not a thief like her father. Later that night, Stella has a change of heart and contacts Charlie, stating that she wants to witness the look on Steve's face when they steal the gold back and agrees to join the team.
She's emotional. She's got the skill and she's got the motivation.
In the morning, Charlie introduces the team to Stella and then reveals the team's new identities to the members. Following this, the crew strategizes the heist, commencing with surveillance of Steve's property and devising a plan to take control of the traffic.
Nitromen, chemical grenades?
Security booth looked prime for a chemical grenade.
There he is.
Eventually, they decide to take the first step. They plan to go inside Steve's house with Stella as the spy, since she is the only one Steve doesn't recognize. Meanwhile, Steve is still attempting to sell the gold bars to Yevon, a money launderer. During their meeting, Yevon buys 2 bars of gold and assures Steve that he will acquire more in the future. Meanwhile, the team is closely monitoring Steve as they refine their strategy. They decide to infiltrate Steve's mansion disguised as repairmen, with Rob and Lyle obtaining a work bus and uniform from a repair company. Rob persuades one of the repair women to access her uniform in the bus. He convinces her to spend the night with him, and the following morning, he stealthily steals her uniform and copies the bus key. They quickly gave Stella the uniform and key to pretend to be the cable lady. Left Ear disrupts the electrical system of Steven's mansion, causing a problem with Steve's TV cable, which causes him to call the repair shop for help. However, the team had already accessed his cell phone and responded to his call. Stella, wearing a concealed camera on her chest, drove the bus to Steve's location, where she was met by his aggressive dogs. Steve eventually introduced himself to her, and as they entered the house, he bragged about his possessions and the size of his TV. Using the camera, they obtained the blueprint of the house while Stella searched for the location of the safe. Steve also attempts to flirt with Stella and asks her out on a date, which she initially refuses but later accepts after some persuasion. After Stella's encounter with Steve, she felt restless and unsettled about meeting her father's killer. Charlie met up with her to offer encouragement, and the team returned to planning the heist. They tested out the Mini Cooper they intend to transport the gold, using metal weights to simulate its expected weight. Stella was asked to test the car, but they soon discovered it couldn't carry the amount of gold they needed. Rob suggested bringing Wrench, who agreed to do the job for $10,000. Meanwhile, Lyle had hacked into the traffic system and was excited to show off his work to Charlie, causing chaos on the roads by changing the traffic lights at will. Charlie was impressed with Lyle's skill. Meanwhile, Left Ear worked on his explosive expertise. Once Wrench finished working on the cars, they took them for a test drive and were thrilled with the improvements. Later on, Steve visits Yvonne to exchange more gold bars for cash. While they are talking, Yvonne brings up the topic of a gold heist in Venice, which grabs Steve's attention. Steve becomes furious and demands to know who Yvonne has told about the gold. When Yevon insists that he hasn't told anyone, Steve violently pushes him onto his desk and kills him with a shot. Minutes later, Yevon's cousin, Mashka, the leader of a Ukrainian mafia gang, walks in and is shocked when he finds him dead. Afterwards, Charlie takes Left Ears to buy explosive supplies from Skinny Pete, an arms dealer. On their way, Charlie warns Left Ear not to stare at Skinny Pete. However, as they approach him, Left Ear becomes nervous and speechless when he realizes Skinny Pete is not skinny. Skinny Pete mentions the Venice gold bars, but Charlie tells him they did not come to discuss that. Then they agree to get explosive devices from him. After that, the Ukrainian mafia, who was already on the hunt for Yvonne's killer, brought in one of Yevon's workers for questioning to gather information. The worker revealed that a big tattooed man with long black hair had inquired about the gold bars. The mafia boss quickly orders his team to visit Skinny Pete. Once they arrive, Mashka interrogates Skinny Pete about his knowledge of the gold bars and involvement in Yevon's death. Meanwhile, Charlie and the team are preparing to proceed with their plan. Lyle watches Steve's movements, and eventually Steve leaves in his car to meet Stella for their date. Upon arrival, Charlie realizes that Steve's neighbor is throwing a party, and they won't be able to use explosives, so they have to cancel the plan. At this point, Stella has no choice but to meet Steve for her date at the restaurant. Steve compliments Stella on her job and tells her she is too beautiful. As they continue to talk, Steve asks Stella to come with him to his place, but she rejects his offer and asks him to take things slow. Steve then questions her trust in him, to which she replies, "I trust everyone. It's the devil inside them, I don't trust them." Her father always used this phrase, and Steve was familiar with it. He told her he knew someone who had said the same thing to him. Suddenly, Steve grabs Stella's hand and the team enters the restaurant. Steve is shocked when he taunts Stella about her father's death, and she tries to fight him, but Rob holds her back. Steve boasts about his security system and how difficult it will be for the team to crack his safe. Charlie leans across the table and punches him in the face. Later, at the team's hideout, Charlie comforts Stella about the altercation and the emotions that Steve's presence has stirred up in her. Meanwhile, Lyle delivers news that Steve plans to transport the gold to Mexico. Although the team is disappointed, Charlie sees this as an opportunity. He believes that they can intercept the safe before it leaves. Lyle informs them that Steve uses safe trucks and a helicopter to move the gold. Charlie receives a call from Skinny Pete, who asks him about his involvement in Yvonne's murder. Charlie denies any knowledge of the murder, but asks for a favor. Charlie and Rob go to a truck store to buy a truck for their heist. While inspecting the new truck, Charlie calls Wrench and requests his assistance again. Wrench expresses his desire to be involved, and Charlie agrees to let him in. Later, Charlie and Left Ear work together to place explosives under the bridge, where they plan to divert the truck carrying the gold. Meanwhile, the team observes how Steve intends to transport the gold. They notice he has arranged for 3 safe trucks, most likely as a decoy. However, Charlie had anticipated this and suggested they focus on the one escorted by a helicopter to confirm their suspicion. Lyle is instructed to inspect the tires of the 3 trucks and identify the one carrying a heavy load. After his evaluation, Lyle spotted truck 128 transporting the gold. Upon reaching an intersection, the 3 trucks took different paths. While Lyle monitored them using traffic cameras, he also engineered traffic congestion on the route that truck 128 was supposed to take. Meanwhile, Steve was overseeing the situation from his helicopter and understood what was unfolding. He directed his pilot to change course. Eventually, Lyle manipulated traffic lights to redirect truck 128 to the intended path. The team successfully pursued the truck and engaged in a high-speed chase through a crowded street, down a staircase and a train station to pass under the bridge on time.
Stay right on, but this is gonna be tight.
Come on.
Lyle had to halt the train using a button to ensure the team could pass. Finally, they arrived under the bridge and awaited Wrench's signal. Once they received it, Left Ear triggered the explosives, causing the road to collapse and the truck to plummet into the hole. Wrench acted swiftly, concealing the hole with the press of a button. Steve then ordered his men to search for the truck. Meanwhile, the team encountered a new challenge. Upon accessing the truck, they noticed that the safe inside was not what they had expected, which surprised Stella. Charlie asked her if she could still open it, to which she replied that it was a new model and difficult to breach. Stella began drilling into the safe, but soon found it too challenging to continue. She decided to apply her expertise and work meticulously to unlock it. Eventually, she succeeded, and the team cheered as they transferred the gold into the Mini Cooper. Lyle was also thrilled about the gold successfully moving. The team made their escape. Meanwhile, Steve's men are in pursuit, chasing the team down the tunnel. The pursuit intensifies and Steve's men start firing their weapons. Eventually, the team loses them and makes it onto the highway. However, Steve spots them quickly from his helicopter. He continues pursuing them through an open field and back into the road. At this point, Charlie decides to take a different path, but Steve follows him. Sometime later, Steve and Charlie cross paths, and Charlie narrowly avoids the helicopter's blades. Steve exits the aircraft and hijacks a car from a stranger to pursue Charlie further. Charlie regroups with the team, and they swiftly load the Mini Coopers onto a train car before departing. Meanwhile, Steve doggedly tracks them. He spots the team leaving the train car and approaches Wrench, mistaking him for a worker, and offers him $5,000 to access the Mini Coopers. Steve pays Wrench half of the money up front and promises to spend the rest after Wrench takes the money and opens the train car. To Steve's surprise, Charlie is inside. Charlie commends Steve's tactics, but informs him that he now possesses the gold, and Steve is left with nothing. Steve draws his gun to shoot Charlie, but it is too late as the Ukrainian mafia gang arrives on the scene. Steve was unfamiliar with the men and thus inquired about their identity. The mafia leader introduced himself as Yevon's cousin. Steve realized he was in trouble and immediately denied any involvement in Yevon's death, asserting that Yevon was already deceased when he encountered him. He attempted to negotiate with the mafia boss, but Charlie had already struck a deal with him. Stella takes the opportunity to punch Steve, and the mafia takes him away. Stella was pleased to have avenged her father's death and embraced Charlie in celebration. Meanwhile, Steve continued to plead with the mafia boss, offering to double Charlie's offer, but it was useless. Finally, Charlie and the team continued to revel in their triumph as they boarded the train to commence their journey.